GPTV here, and I wanted to try something new for the channel, something fun. I've been a wrestling fan the majority of my life, and I've been collecting wrestling-related items for most of that time, and I've amassed a pretty decent collection. And a lot of people ask me questions about things I have and the stories behind them. So I thought it'd be fun to add a new show here to the channel, where each week or so I'll come on here and just show you a few items that I have, tell you a little bit about the backstory of them, and eventually make our way through the majority of the collection for the people who find it interesting. So, not going to be long, not going to show a bunch of stuff at any one time. We'll keep these pretty short and easy to digest. So, let's see what we got to look at in the collection here today. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Gene's Wrestling Collection, and this week we're going to be looking at a few of my favorite items from the Wolfpac. Not the big NWO red and black Wolfpac when they turn into their own sort of faction. I'm talking about Hall, Nash, and Six, aka Sean Waltman. I was a big fan of them. I was a fan of the NWO. I was in college during the Monday Night Wars, and a lot of us would get together and flip back and forth between Nitro and Raw on Monday nights. And I had a couple of buddies that were big Hollywood Hogan fans, and I was a big fan of the Wolfpac. And of course, a lot of our friends were big Ric Flair and Four Horsemen fans. So I had been a fan. I had followed Scott Hall's career from the beginning, back in the AWA, straight up through to Razor Ramon, and then on to WCW. I had followed Sean Waltman's career from when he was the Lightning Kid in Global, having those matches with Jerry Lynn that still get talked about to this day. And I remember Kevin Nash, from Master Blaster to Oz to Vinny Vegas. I remember me and my friends going to a B house show in Columbus, Mississippi for WCW, headlined on top by the Junkyard Dog and Dirty Dick Slater. This would have been around 1993. As best I remember the card, the Cole Twins versus Tex Slazenger and Shanghai Pierce. Michael Hayes against the Barbarian. Johnny B. Bad versus Van Hammer. And Kevin Nash as Vinny Vegas taking on, I don't remember who he wrestled. I just know that me and my two buddies, Mark and Brad, were the only three people in the building cheering for Vinny Vegas, ironically, I guess. And I just remember at one point, he's toying with the guy, and I just stand up, and it's dead silence because these people are not digging Vinny Vegas at all. And I just stand up, and I'm like, "Roll the dice, Vinny, roll the dice." And he hits the snake eyes. He points right at me. He's like, "Here you go, big guy." And he hits the snake eyes in the corner. And I was a Kevin Nash fan from that point on, straight through the rest of his run in WCW, and then when he turned up as Diesel in the WWF, and was a huge fan of him and Hall when they showed up as the Outsiders. And at first, I started kind of cheering for Six, ironically, just to annoy my friends that were Four Horsemen fans, especially the Ric Flair fans, once that feud started. But over time, he won me over, and I really did become a fan of Six. I remember we went to a house show in Tupelo where Flair wrestled Six. It was the Giant and Nash on top, and just below them was Flair and Six. And I had a big sign for Six. I don't remember what it said. Some wise ass something knocking Flair and putting over Six. And as soon as Six comes out of the aisle, he sees it and he starts pointing at it. And he gets in the ring and he's putting it over. Like when Flair gets in, it was something about Flair being old or some, marky shit like that. And as soon as Flair gets in the ring, Six points over at the sign and then gives him the old suck it, And so Flair comes over to me, gives me the old hip thrust, and says, "Sit down, fat boy," which, I was a Flair fan. We were all having fun, and so that made my life. Six putting it over, and then Flair telling me, "Sit down, fat boy." It didn't get much better than that. So I had me an NWO shirt, but of course it was the one with the 6 ball on the back of it. And so once I started going to conventions, um, the NWO, or at least the Wolfpac version of the NWO, was high on my list of people to meet. Obviously, I'd like to meet Hulk Hogan. At this point, I don't. I think the best bet to do that is going to be to make a trip down to his beach shop. But from what I understand, that's pretty pricey, so I don't know if that's going to be in the cards. But I am happy to say I have met all 3 members of the Wolfpac, and I actually had the opportunity to meet Scott Hall on 2 different occasions. So we're going to look at a couple things that I got signed from these guys. So the first one I got to meet was Scott Hall. We met him in Rome, Georgia at the Superstars of Wrestling Fan Fest over there in Rome. This was right after Hall had went into the Hall of Fame, and it was straight out of DDP's house and everything. And he was in good spirits. He was very talkative. I talked to him about seeing him as a kid in Columbus, Mississippi, on a Continental show when he was in for that whole angle with Lord Humongous, Sid Vicious, and Jeffrey Rupp, the local news guy. And he seemed, over the moon to talk about that, and talk about, that as bad as Sid was when they wrestled him in WCW, he told Nash you should have had a wrestling when it was green down in Mississippi, But anyway, I got this figure signed. He signed it as Razor Ramon. For my money, this is the best Razor Ramon figure they've ever made, the Defining Moments one, even though no one really knows what moment this is supposed to be defining, as most of them is specific to an event, but this one really isn't. But he's got the Intercontinental belt, and he's got the gold chains. He's got all of it there, and was able to meet Scott Hall and get that signed, so that was a big check mark on the old bucket list of wrestlers to meet. And so then after that, we got an opportunity to meet Kevin Nash in Nashville. They did some big indie show in Nashville at the fairgrounds, and the guy had brought in a bunch of names. Some of them wrestled, but a lot of them were just doing the meet and greets for the show. Nash was one of them. MVP was there. Rockstar Spud, Tatanka, James Storm. I forget who else, but there were several. And so that was when we got to meet Kevin Nash. Now I also have, this one's not signed, but this is an odd one. This is a Classic Superstars, where clearly this is Diesel. He's in his Diesel gear. He's got his WWF title, but it says Kevin Nash on the package. So that's kind of odd that they didn't label him Diesel. But anyway, I got that one because, again, I was a fan of Diesel during his heyday in the WWF. But what I got signed that day, this to me is one of the best Nash figures ever put out. It's part of the Elite collection. And you see he's got his World Heavyweight title with the red NWO spray painted on there. He's got his Wolfpac shirt. And I don't know, that is probably my favorite era of Kevin Nash there during the heyday of the Outsiders. And so that was pretty cool. Here's a picture from me and my wife Rosie there with Kevin Nash, and he was really cool. And I got a chance, just like I talked to Hall about the Lord Humongous match in Columbus, Mississippi. I had a Columbus, Mississippi memory to talk to Nash about. I mentioned the old Vinny Vegas thing, and he got a kick out of that. I'm not going to say he remembered it, but the fact that at that point in his career that Vinny Vegas had any fans out there, he was quite amused by that. And so then we went to StarCast in Chicago during the first the all-in weekend up there, and I was quite excited that I finally got a chance to meet Six, X-Pac, Sean Waltman, 123 Kid, take your pick. And so I had this 123 Kid figure. There he is with the tag team title when he won it with either Marty Jannetty or Bob Sparkplug Holly. I like to think it was with Marty Jannetty, but maybe it was from when he did it with Bob Sparkplug Holly. But I didn't get that one signed. Me and Rosie were there together, so we each was in the line, so I was able to get two. So was able to get this one signed. This is X-Pac from DX. He's got the European title there. He signed it X-Pac. Suck it. Quite appropriate, right? And this is my favorite. One of my favorite figures just in general. But here he is in his 6-Pac attire. He signed it 6-Pac, but then he put the X over it, and he's got Wolfpac for life on there. But he's got the Thug singlet on, which I was always a fan of that. I thought that was pretty fun. And so there's a picture of Rosie with Sean Waltman, and there's a picture of me. And unfortunately, my NWO shirt with the 6 ball on the back has long since went AWOL, so I didn't have it there to wear, unfortunately. But then, after I got that sweet Kevin Nash figure, I got this awesome Scott Hall figure in the Elite line as well. And this is a great depiction of Scott Hall in the NWO Hollywood era, I guess you would say. And we had a chance to meet Scott Hall again at WrestleCade in Winston-Salem, rather. And got this one signed and got to talk to him again. He wasn't as this was about 3 years later, so he wasn't quite as talkative or as happy to be there as he was in Rome, but still it was a pleasant experience and very cool to get to meet, like I say, somebody I'd followed his whole career from, the AWA straight on up. And Scott Hall, I think, is one of the most underrated wrestlers ever. I mean, because he was a guy, you look at him right there, look how, he's 6'6", he was a big man, but he wrestled, he could go either way. When he wrestled guys smaller than him, he could wrestle like a big man, but if he got in there with somebody bigger, he could bounce around, he could do anything. And, when he was usually the big guy in most cases, but then when you paired him up with Kevin Nash, now, he's the one that's got to bounce around and take the bumps. So he played that role well. And so a couple more Wolfpac things real quick. I got this Outsiders pennant that I picked up at a WCW house show in Tupelo, hanging up in the other room over there, which is cool. I got a Hollywood Hogan one too, but we'll save that one for another day, brother. And then I got this art poster from High Spots that I got signed by Nash, Hall, and X-Pac, 6-Pac, Sean Waltman, take your pick. But it's a cool poster, and it's hanging up in the other room as well, and it's another favorite piece of the collection there. And so, we're showed you my favorite, JCP VHSs in the first episode. This one I want to show you some of my favorite Wolfpac merchandise. And for episode number 3, one of my all-time favorite legends, Roddy Piper. I was fortunate enough to get to meet Roddy on a couple of different occasions, and I've got a few different Roddy Piper related items, some of them signed in my collection. And we'll take a look at those in the next episode. I look forward to talking about that. Roddy Piper, like I said, I was a fan of him since I was a little kid, and he's one of the first guys that stands out in my memory. The rock and wrestling, watching the Hulk Hogan's rock and wrestling cartoon, and first WrestleMania, all that. And he probably Ric Flair, Dusty, Sting. I was excited to meet all those guys, and Hall and Nash. But Roddy Piper is probably one of the people I was most excited to meet, and he more than exceeded any expectations we could have had. But we'll talk about that next time. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do. Subscribe to Cheap Eat TV. I'm going to be doing more of these, showing you my wrestling collection, talking about it. We put podcasts up every week, and we've got new old school wrestling content going up every single day. I've got a pretty large DVD and VHS wrestling collection, going through adding different things. So if there's something you want to see, hit me up. You can message me on Facebook, or you can, comment on one of the videos here. If I have it, I will dig it out and put it in the queue of things to add, as long as it's not something that's going to get my channel shut down again. We'll do our best to try to make it happen. But yeah, subscribe to the channel and spread the word, and let people know what we're doing over here. And I hope everybody's enjoying it. And please, any feedback's appreciated. But we'll see you next time when we check out some items from Hot Rod Roddy Piper. Should be fun. Thanks for watching.